Hey everyone, welcome back to the Buzz COVIdeo series. I'm Jeff Pilch, one of the creators of the Buzz. Today we're here with Brandon Flanagan, CEO of Enforce Technology. How are we doing today, Brandon?
Doing great, Jeff. How are you?
Good. How you holding up during all this?
We're doing okay. I've got a big family. We have four children at home, so it's had its challenges. I think we could be fair enough to say that.
Yeah, I hear you. It's all relative, really, at this point, I guess, right? Just happy to be here.
Yeah, glad to be here and healthy for sure.
For sure. Can you maybe just remind the viewers a little bit about what Enforce does? I know we profiled you maybe a couple months ago, but be great to get a little refresher.
Yeah, so Enforce Technology is a SaaS business model. We're based in Linfield, Massachusetts, just north of Boston, and we worked to develop a school safety application. And uniquely, it's an app that resides across multiple platforms and all in native form. And we developed our application, Enforce 911, to be a real-time threat alert notification system. So, in working with schools, for example, and other at-risk organizations, we want to first and foremost reduce police response time to that active threat, while secondly also mitigating the communication barrier, or really kind of creating bridging that barrier, I should say, to allow for better communication from the point of contact back to the first responders, and in hope, the goal ultimately is to save lives.
Yep. No, that's a good primer, I think. So I know it's been like 2 months since, all this lockdown stuff has happened. Can you talk a little bit about what your maybe like initial reaction was on how to adjust to COVID and kind of like being locked in and then schools being closed, that kind of stuff?
I mean, from an organization perspective, we wanted to kind of batten down the hatches the best that we could
Yeah.
and the best care of our employees, and of course their families too, in response to this because of all of the uncertainty. We allowed most of our employees to work from home, work remotely, which was a good fit for us. We were able to connect and stay connected through the different applications that exist today. And then, from a family or from a personal perspective, a lot of fear, at least in the beginning. And I think some of that subsided as we all worked through this together.
Yeah.
And as a neighborhood, we came together, for an example, from my perspective, and rallied together. And the kids, albeit socially distanced, had an opportunity to at least interact with one another, which is important for them because they haven't been in school.
Yeah. Um, can you maybe talk more specifically about the business itself and kind of um, how these last 2 months have maybe changed, if it at all has changed the vision for the company based on any potential structural changes in society and whatnot?
Yeah, well, the we took all of this into consideration, all that's going on around us with remote learning and remote meetings and web
Yeah.
conferences of that nature. But we also wanted to provide our target audience, or our target industry, which is public, private, K through 12 organizations, the ability to utilize our software in a more extensive or expansive offering. And so the focus as a core group here was to really put our attention toward the development, R&D of our software, so that we could allow for that expansive element of the software. And so as a result, we're putting forth and releasing enhanced features and functionality to the software, which allows, for an example, for internal notifications or organization-based notifications that would not include immediate law enforcement presence or intervention. And so that allows for a staff member of a school building who may recognize a potential threat, albeit not serious enough that requires law enforcement intervention, but to send it instead to the administration so that they could evaluate and best determine the course of action depending on what that situation may dictate. And in addition to that, allow that administrator to perhaps forward that alert to law enforcement should they deem as though their presence would be appropriate at that point in time. And so really the biggest change for us is that we weren't able to communicate with our prospective customers, or with a lot of our customers, because either they were reprioritized, working on other elements within the school district, or are simply unavailable because of the situation. So R&D and development took center stage for IFT.
Yeah. So has business development pretty much shut down altogether during all this and you're focusing strictly on product development, or like what does that look like with schools
Product,
closed?
yeah. So product development again is definitely the primary
Yeah.
objective that we've been working on collectively as a group. But second to that, I would say is that we've continued to stay in touch with all of our prospective customers in the pipeline, general pipeline, and within the forecasts. Right. So we didn't want to lose momentum. And try to mitigate that the best that we could. So our team has done a good job of staying in front of them from an organizational perspective, staying relevant within the industry. So whether it's mass email blasts, snail mail campaigns, dropping a cold call here and there, but just staying center stage the best that we could, despite all of which is happening around us.
Yeah. Could you maybe share with us how any of the viewers could be helpful in, getting you to the next step? That's sort of why we're here, and would love for you to share that.
Yeah, we were looking to initiate our second formal offering to raise capital for the organization, and I think because we had scaled back a lot of non-essential or non-necessary components of the business the last 2 months, we've also been able to reevaluate our finances and really what our go-forward plan is going to be. And so I wouldn't say that we underwent a restructure, because I think that's much too strong of a word. But we certainly had to evaluate, given the nature of what's occurring around us, what was in our best interest to maintain, fiscal conservatism and to do things the right way. And so, from that sense, we've taken a look at what our needs are and reduced them significantly because of the new operation and the impact that we're working under. So that second round still remains open. What we'd like to do is come June is to open up that round formally and run sort of a process, if you will, with the needs and then the use of funds, of course, along with the appropriate documentation and templates that prospective investors would be interested in.
Got it. So before we wrap up here, anything else you wanted to share about the business or help you need as we come to a close?
Well, there was an interesting article that was published by CBS News, I believe, an online article that had detailed the accounts of school shootings and school incidents throughout not only the past year, but years prior. And shockingly, the month of March 2020 is the only month on record where we have not experienced some type of school or campus shooting, active shooting event or situation. And the reason why is because there was no school nationwide. And so for us, that was very, very concerning and shocking at the same time. But what I think is more important to understand are the ramifications of this pandemic and what that means to children and students in particular. There's a lot of time on their hands right now. There's not as much structure, perhaps. And I think the bigger fear is what happens within the next 30, 60, 90, even 120 days as we enter the summer months, where the days are a little bit longer. Mom and dad may be going back to work, and yet these children who would be in normal structured routines are not.
Yeah.
And so how does that filter or spill into the classroom, and what effects does that have? And when you look at this whole situation holistically, you see that domestic violence numbers have spiked and increased significantly, as have substance and alcohol abuse. And so, there's going to be some type of negative fallout from this. And our hope and prayer is that it doesn't spill into some tragedy within the classroom.
Yeah, no, that's well said. So as we, as we wrap up here, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
The best way to get in touch with me is via email. My email is bflanagan, FLANAGAN, at inforcetechnology.com. And of course, anybody can visit the website, which is inforcetechnology.com, and fill out a template, and then it'll make sure that it gets its way to my desk. But that's the easiest, most simplistic way of communicating at this point.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the time, Brandon. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Jeff. It was a pleasure.
Awesome. And thank you, everybody. Be safe out there.
Take care.